Good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Diggs. It is a rainy one out here in the Pacific Northwest today, and we are a couple hours away from the Halloween unit release. I hope you guys will join us on stream for our polls tonight. And of course, we're going to talk about now whether or not you should be pulling for either of these units, and if you are, which one is worth it for you. For those of you new to my channel, if you are planning on pulling, please make sure you use my affiliate link, dig.gs/coins. It's the best way to support me without actually directly giving me money. So, Halloween Leela or Halloween Rairyuu? Which one do we want to pull for and which one is right for you? By now, most of you have probably seen both of my videos, one on Ryryu and one on Leela. And most likely you have your eyes on one and you're not sure whether you should pull the trigger, wait for Howlet, or if you should continue saving for Kane. I think all of those are good options, and here's kind of my quick take on Ryryu and little Leela. Ryryu is going to be a unit that's very versatile, and I think specifically if you have another unit like Rain, for example, in your composition, he's going to work really well with Ryryu. I think also if you have been an Eileen lover since the beginning, I think Ryryu is going to be the way to go for you. Not only does he help buff her, but with the recent changes to the Titan card, it's actually going to make Eileen very viable, I think. And I'm excited to see the Eileen and Ryryu combos that are going to be emerging from this. Now, the other thing that I would say with Ryryu is that if you are a newer player, I would probably not advise you to pull Ryryu. If you're going to try and maximize him to the best of your abilities, you're going to need a variety of VC cards, and you're also going to need a variety of different units to pair with him. Not everybody is going to be able to make use of Ryryu. Now, everyone can make use of him with Mott, but what I'm talking about is actually making him viable and actually using him. I'm also not fully convinced yet that his TMR is going to be completely game-changing. I actually think little Leela's TMR is a little bit more relevant, and let me tell you why I think Ryryu's TMR is not game-changing. Ryryu's TMR gives you a re-raise effect to your unit. This can, of course, be, change everything. However, we have similar effects in the game right now, and people are not using them. Particularly, I'm thinking about the tank ability that lets you survive death, or guts as we would call it. There's no difference between guts essentially and this re-raise, except that it re-raises you with 20% HP. Both of them have to be casted, and I do believe that the guts ability is not based on faith, and I'm curious, because I haven't seen it yet, I'm curious if the Ryryu re-raise TMR effect is going to be faith-based on the character, right? Very similar to Full Life, it'll be interesting to see how that works. Because what if it only has the standard raise percent of, say, standard raise and not Full Life? It's going to depend on how it's coded, and it's going to depend on how it's tested. So make sure you stay tuned and are aware when Ryryu launches that if that's the reason you're pulling for him, make sure his TMR works the way you think it works before you actually pull Ryryu. Because I'm going to say it could easily be a trap, and you're going to have the right composition to put that TMR on someone anyway. Do I think there's a perfect unit for Ryryu's TMR? I think Ayaka would probably be really good, just because if you're going to stand a chance with a re-raise, it's going to have to be on a healer that can heal themselves. I could also see it on Warrior of Light, potentially, since he does have access to Healing Breath, and I bet you when he re-raises, it would auto-trigger Healing Breath, but he might not have enough agility to kind of do anything. It'll be interesting to see where that TMR kind of falls on the spectrum. So would I say Ryryu is a end-all be-all pull for? I would say Ryryu is a complicated unit that should be pulled depending on your composition and your cards, and whether you think you can make the best out of him. I know you could say that for any unit, But Ryryu in particular is not an easy button. He is not an Orlando that you can just put into your party and he's going to fit in there kind of just on his own. He's going to need to be worked with, and he's going to have to be with a player who understands the fundamental concepts of the game, the difference between magic attack, slash attack, earth attack, and of course magic up and all of that, because that is a completely different video that I would say probably half of the War of the Visions community does not understand competently. Now, Little Leela. Actually, before we get into Little Leela, let's also talk about cost, right? What is the cost? Like, what is the cost of investing in Ryryu? And I think this is very important in regards to sort of perspective on what it takes to MLB a unit. For example, the difference between the cost of maxing out Agrius versus the cost of maxing out, say, Sid when he first came out was a difference of almost 250 to 300 shards. That's almost a half price unit. We already know in Global that we are going to have easily accessible at least 160 shards for Ryryu. And that's without mention a Consume Visior quest. That is without mention a weekly login or weekly purchase bonus, right? Which would be an additional 40. That's without the mention of a character specific quest. So there's lots of different ways. I have a feeling the actual cost of Ryryu, if you pull him, or the cost of Little Leela, is going to be substantially lower than, say, when you originally had to pull for Sid and there were like no shards anywhere. Little Leela. I think Little Leela, if you are a beginning player, is the better pull here. And there's multiple reasons for that. I think if you don't have an Ayaka, you should definitely pull for Little Leela, because Little Leela is going to have that access to full life. And I would make the argument that next to Ayaka, Little Leela is going to be the best healer and support unit in the game. Not only does she have access to full life, she also has access to easy farming capability, and she's relatively simple to use. Yes, she's an arithmetician, and that can kind of be like, oh my god, mind blown. But honestly, it's not. There's, you know, she's going to be a unit very similar to Ildira, where you're going to put her in and she's just going to farm perfectly. She's going to go in, if you want her to use her as a healer, use her as a healer. She's going to be able to support wonderfully. She's going to have high agility, and she's just going to work. So if you are someone who is newer to the game, you want to get a Halloween unit, and you want a unit that'll be relevant for some time, Little Leela is definitely going to be that unit. Now, Little Leela also is very powerful in her own right in terms of offensive capability, evasion, and other things as well. So if you have any type of an evasion composition, you are going to want Little Leela. Little Leela is going to fit into an evasion composition amazingly. Little Leela's TMR, as I said earlier, I think is better than Ryryu's TMR too. It gives magic plus 80% for 3 turns to the unit that used it, and accuracy 30. That's a huge magic buff. It's a 3-turn duration buff, and it gives you 30 accuracy. Yes, it lowers defense and spirit by 10. However, right now, evasion is king in the game, and having access to that accuracy plus 30 is going to be pivotal in making Ruin Stern and those evasion comps that people are running fall to the ground. Now, Little Leela, evasion comps are not her only bread and butter. Because of her mastery ability, you are also going to be able to make use of her if you have any type of wind composition team. Specifically, I think about Merlo here, who has a, unhealthy obsession with Yerma. Yerma is a wonderful unit, but Merlo goes a little too far with her. So if you are a Merlo out there, if you have Yerma and you use her religiously, Little Leela is going to be amazing for you. With that mastery ability to add wind attack damage paired with that HP plus 10%, it's going to make all wind units more viable. And specifically, if you are planning or planned on pulling Howlet in the future, Little Leela is going to be absolutely amazing for you, because she is going to make Howlet only stronger, and she's going to make him and your wind composition team almost perfect, right? It's going to be really interesting to see how the game is shaped with Howlet coming out now, because we got Little Leela before Howlet. So if you are someone who knows you want to pull for Howlet, Little Leela might be the way to go. You might do 2 pulls, you might do 3 pulls, whatever that looks like. If you pull a Little Leela, I would max her, particularly if you're thinking for Howlet. Now, there's a couple more things I want to talk about, and that's going to be the banners that we've seen come out in JP. I do think they will be different than what we got in, or what we're going to get in Global. However, JP did get a 5-step up, unpaid Visior 9K banner, which did give, on the 3rd and the 5th try, double and triple the odds of getting Ryryu. Now, parallel to that, there was also another step-up banner, which gave access to a guaranteed Earth UR element character. There were 4 URs that you could select from, so you had a 25% chance to get Ryryu as well. I would say these banners are pretty good. I'm hoping we get a guaranteed one in Global. However, I would take the risk if I were you, because I'm planning on chasing these units wholeheartedly later on tonight. Hopefully, we'll see some of you guys on stream tonight. We are at twitch.tv/Dr_Diggs. The link is also in the description down below. And we will be streaming from 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. Pacific time, polling right at reset. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great rest of your night.